All right, you want to open a gym. Your own space, your own equipment, your own name on the door. You picture the regulars who become friends, the transformation stories, the community that builds itself around something you created. No corporate wellness program telling you what equipment to buy, no manager second guessing your class schedule, just you, the floor, and people who show up because they trust what you built. That's the picture. That's what the "I quit my corporate job to open my dream gym" content sells you. But here's a question worth asking before you sign a single lease. If this business were as simple as putting equipment in a room and waiting for members to show up, why does the average gym lose nearly a third of its membership base every single year? Not to a competitor stealing them, not to a scandal, just quietly, member by member, walking out the door. Opening a gym isn't a passion project wearing a business costume. It's a business with one of the most brutal, silent revenue leaks in retail, and almost nobody sees it coming until it's already draining them. So, which one are you? The person who falls for the picture of the transformation stories, or the person willing to ask the harder questions and do the actual math first? Let's start with the question almost nobody asks before they start dreaming about gym ownership. Why does this pull at people the way it does? It's rarely about the equipment. It's about being the person who helped someone show up on their worst day. It's about building a room that feels like it belongs to the people in it, not a corporation. For a lot of people, it's personal, their own transformation, a version of themselves that a gym helped build, and the desire to be that for someone else now. So people start looking. They price out equipment, they scout storefronts, they picture the grand opening, and almost every single one of them starts in exactly the same place, falling in love with the space, the brand, the vibe. But here's a question worth sitting with. If the space is the dream, why is it almost never the thing that determines whether the business survives? Because here's the biggest mistake almost every new gym owner makes, but over and over in nearly identical fashion. They obsess over equipment and design, and they almost completely ignore the thing that actually decides whether they're still open in 3 years. It's not the squat racks. It's not the paint color. It's retention. Right now, the average gym in North America keeps only about 66% of its members from one year to the next, meaning close to a third of the people who sign up are gone within 12 months. And it gets worse before it gets better. Nearly half of all new members quit before they even hit the 6-month mark. A member who shows up fewer than 4 times in their entire first month has something like an 80% chance of cancelling. So here's the real first question, and it's not what equipment should I buy? It's, do I have a plan for the person who joins excited in January and stops showing up by March because that person isn't the exception, they're most of your membership base? So, before the build-out, there's a decision that shapes everything else. What kind of gym are you actually building? Are you thinking budget and high volume, low monthly price, huge member count, minimal staff interaction, the model chains like Planet Fitness built an empire on? Are you thinking boutique, smaller footprint, premium pricing, group classes, a tight community feel? Or are you thinking full service, the kind with locker rooms, group fitness studios, maybe recovery amenities, requiring the kind of capital that puts you in a completely different financial category? A boutique studio survives on premium pricing and deep member relationships. A full-service club survives on scale and diversified revenue that budget and boutique models can't access. Ask yourself honestly, which one actually matches both your vision and your capital? Because the boutique dream, the tight-knit community, the personal coaching relationships is a completely different financial animal from the budget, high-volume model, which needs thousands of members just to make the math work at all. Once you know what kind of gym you're building, the next question is where you're going to build it. And this is where the fantasy usually meets its first real obstacle. Location isn't just about finding a space you like. It's about whether your target member already lives, works, or passes through that area on a normal day. A gym tucked away from daily routines, no matter how beautiful, will fight for every single member it gets. And here's a number that should genuinely worry you if you're not paying attention to it. Walking into a market where 5 gyms already compete within a 1-mile radius creates a revenue headwind that no amount of marketing spend fully offsets. So ask yourself, have you actually mapped the competition in the area you're picturing? Or are you assuming your gym will simply be good enough to win regardless? Visibility matters just as much as location itself. A gym near a busy street, a shopping centre, or an office district gets a stream of walk-in curiosity for free. Foot traffic that a hidden storefront in a strip mall's back corner will never see. No matter how good the equipment inside is, parking matters more than most first-time owners expect too. Members who have to fight for a spot before every workout quietly start finding reasons to skip it. So here's a serious question. Are you picking a location because it's affordable or because it's actually where your future members already are? Now let's talk about what it actually costs to get this off the ground. And let's put the real numbers on the table, one at a time, because this is where most beginners badly underestimate the scale of what they're taking on. A small gym, somewhere in the 1,500 to 2,500 square foot range, typically costs $50,000 to $150,000 to open. That figure covers your lease deposit, a basic build-out, equipment, licensing, initial marketing, and a few months of working capital. A boutique studio can run anywhere from $75,000 to $250,000, depending on how much design and specialty equipment your concept demands. And if you're picturing something closer to a full-service club, locker rooms, group fitness space, recovery amenities, you can cross $1 million before you've signed your first member. So here's a question worth sitting with. Which one of these figures matches the gym you've actually been picturing? Or have you been imagining the amenities of a full-service club with the budget of a small studio? The lease and the equipment together typically account for 60 to 70% of your total startup cost. Renovation alone can run $30,000 to $300,000 or more, depending on your space's condition and how much mechanical work, HVAC, plumbing for locker rooms, it needs. And equipment isn't a minor line item either. You should expect to allocate 30 to 50% of your total startup capital just to outfitting the floor, because commercial-grade equipment doesn't come cheap. And the current shift towards strength training circuits over massive cardio banks means the smart money is increasingly going toward fewer, higher-quality pieces rather than filling a room with machines nobody uses. Then there's the cost most beginners forget entirely. The runway. Most gyms take 6 to 12 months to break even, some take 18. If your monthly operating costs run around $15,000, you need $45,000 to $90,000 sitting in reserve just to survive the ramp-up period, money you're not allowed to think of as optional. This isn't a cushion for emergencies. It's survival money for the ordinary expected reality of building a member base from zero. So here's a serious question. If you burned through every dollar of your reserve in month 4, with the members still trickling in slowly, what would you do? Cut quality/prices, or take on debt at terrible terms? Because that's exactly the spiral that ends most gyms that fail in year 1, and it's rarely the gym's concept that killed them. It's running out of runway before the concept had time to work. Add licensing, insurance, general liability alone, typically runs $1,000 to $3,000 a year, with professional liability for trainers and property insurance for equipment, adding more on top, and legal setup costs. That can range from a few $100 for something simple to $15,000 for something more complex. All in, even a lean, small format gym is looking at total startup capital somewhere in the range of $80,000 to $200,000 once you include your operating reserve. Not because the owners were careless, because that's simply what it costs to have a real chance of surviving the first year. So let's talk about the other side of the ledger, because membership dues alone are only part of the picture, and the gyms that actually thrive rarely rely on them exclusively. Ancillary services, personal training, retail, wellness offerings typically account for about a quarter of a health club's total revenue. Gyms with an active retail program report an extra $500 to $2,000 a month just from apparel, supplements, and accessories. Personal training packages carry far higher margins than membership dues alone, and they do double duty, deepening the relationship with a member in a way that measurably improves retention, not just adding a revenue line. Online or hybrid coaching lets you monetize members who can't make it in person, extending your reach beyond your physical square footage entirely. Corporate wellness partnerships bring in group memberships and steady, predictable contracts. The smartest gym owners rarely depend on one revenue source, because a slow month in new signups doesn't have to be a slow month in total revenue if you've built other income streams that don't depend on foot traffic through the front door alone. Now let's actually run the math, because seeing it laid out is more honest than talking about it in the abstract. Say you open a small budget to mid-tier gym with 300 members paying an average of $50 a month. That's $180,000 a year in membership revenue before anything else. Add modest ancillary revenue, retail, some personal training packages, worth roughly a quarter of that membership total, and you're looking at total revenue somewhere around $225,000 in a good year. Your operating costs, rent, staff, equipment, maintenance, insurance, utilities, marketing might run somewhere around $160,000 to $190,000 annually for an operation this size. Net profit in a genuinely good year, somewhere in the range of $35,000 to $65,000. Real money, but ask yourself honestly, against the $80,000 to $200,000 you put in, and the year or more of runway you needed to survive before breaking even, is that the return you were picturing? Because that assumes a good year, and here's a serious question almost nobody runs before they sign a lease. What happens in the year retention goes wrong instead of right? Remember, the industry average annual churn sits around a third of your membership base every single year without you doing anything wrong, simply from members moving, losing motivation, or drifting away in that brutal first 90 days. If you don't have a real system to backfill that loss with new signups and referrals, your 300 members can quietly become 200 over 18 months, and your revenue drops proportionally while your fixed costs, rent, insurance, staff, mostly stay exactly the same. A gym losing 400 members a year at $50 a month is looking at roughly $240,000 in lost annual revenue. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between a business and a slow-motion closure. So here's the real question. Do you have an actual retention system, onboarding, engagement in the first 90 days, a reason for people to come back in week 2? Or are you assuming that good equipment and good vibes will be enough to keep people around on their own? Let's run both scenarios side by side, because it's more honest than talking about it abstractly. In the good year, your gym holds retention near the industry benchmark, replaces the members it naturally loses with steady new signups and referrals, and layers in retail and personal training revenue on top. You net somewhere in the mid-5 figures after your first full year of operation, a real, sustainable business starting to take shape. In the bad year, your first 90 days of onboarding weren't dialed in, so new members quietly stop showing up before they ever become loyal. Your churn creeps toward 40% instead of 30%. You're spending 5 to 7 times more to acquire a replacement member than it would have cost to simply keep the one you lost. And that acquisition cost eats directly into the profit you thought you'd have. By month 8, you're not asking how to grow anymore, you're asking how to make payroll. Same location, same equipment, same amount of your own labor and hope poured into the space. The only difference is whether retention was a system you built on purpose or something you assumed would just happen. So here's a serious question. Could your business actually survive a year that looks like the second one, or does your entire plan quietly depend on everything going right from day one? And then there's the daily reality nobody puts in the highlight reel. Running a gym isn't opening the doors and watching people work out. It's being there early to fix the treadmill that broke overnight before your 6 a.m. regulars show up. It's the awkward conversation with a trainer who isn't pulling their weight, or the member who's frustrated their favorite class time changed. It's constantly, quietly selling, because every slow week in new signups is a real dent in revenue that shows up on your books in real time, not months later. It's staffing schedules, insurance renewals, equipment maintenance contracts, and a business that genuinely never fully turns off, because your members expect the doors to be open at 5 in the morning and at 9 at night every single day, holidays included. So ask yourself honestly, not the version of you excited by the grand opening photos, but the version of you handling a frustrated member's complaint at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday before your coffee's even finished. Is this the life you actually want, or the life you want to have already built? There's also a quieter risk almost nobody names directly. You're not just building a business, you're building a community, and communities have moods. A gym with a strong sense of belonging can survive a shaky month because members genuinely don't want to leave. A gym that feels transactional loses people the moment a competitor undercuts your price by $10 a month. So here's a question worth sitting with. Are you building a place people are loyal to or a place people are simply paying for? Because those two businesses have wildly different survival odds when things get hard. So let's come back to the real question underneath all of this, the one that actually determines whether this dream becomes a sustainable business or a very expensive, very public failure. It's not, can I afford the equipment? Plenty of people can scrape together the capital for a build-out. It's, do I have a real plan for the member who joins in January and loses motivation by March? Because managing that reality, not the equipment or the paint color, is the actual job. That's a completely different question. And it demands a completely different kind of preparation, one built around retention systems, realistic revenue diversification, and an honest look at whether you have the reserve to survive the ramp up before you ever sign a lease. Because here's the thing about the transformation stories, the community, the regulars who become friends, that image is real. People build genuinely meaningful, profitable businesses around this. It exists, and for the owners who do it right, it's everything they hoped it would be. But it's not built by the person who fell in love with the equipment catalogue. It's built by the person willing to ask the uncomfortable questions first, about churn, about location, about the version of themselves that has to solve a problem before the doors even open every single morning. Anyone can lease a space and buy some racks. Building something that keeps people walking back through that door, month after month, year after year, that's a completely different skill. And the only real question left is this: which kind of gym owner are you going to be before you sign the lease, not after? If this changed how you think about the gym you've been picturing, that's exactly what this channel is here for, breaking down the real economics behind the businesses everyone romanticizes. If you found this useful, drop a like. It genuinely helps this reach more people asking the same questions. And I want to know in the comments, after everything we just covered, would you still make this leap, or does the retention math change your mind? Subscribe if you're not already, because we're breaking down another one just like this next time. See you in the next one.